Hello, welcome to IT Expert YouTube video series. Today we are going to talk about PostMan. What is PostMan? PostMan is a collaboration platform for API development. It allows users to send HTTP requests to a server and view the response. With PostMan, you can create and save APIs, add authentication, and manage environments to switch between different servers. Additionally, PostMan supports various request methods, example like get, post, put, delete, and allows users to add parameters, headers, and body data to their requests. You can also use PostMan to test your APIs and view the results in a convenient, user-friendly interface. How PostMan works. After installing PostMan successfully, we can start API testing by making HTTP requests to the server. HTTP methods. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol is used to allow communication between servers and clients. It acts as a request-response protocol between the client and the server. The web browser is considered a client, and the application that hosts the website is viewed as a server. The most popular HTTP methods are as follows. Get method is used for retrieving the data from the server through the URI. Post request is used to send data to the server. Put, it is used to send data to a server to create or update a resource. Patch, it is used to update partial resources. Head is similar to get, the only difference is head does not have a response body. Delete, the delete method deletes the mentioned resource. Testing GET requests. Let us test the APIs, and to test the API we have to make a GET request. The procedure for the GET request is as follows. Create a collection in PostMan. Create a request and save it in a collection. Now, we have to pass different parameters to the request to get a response. Now we have to enter the URL needed, and then we have to click on the send button. Now we will get a response in the body section indicating that we have tested the API successfully. Testing post requests. For example, if we want to create a user or delete a Gmail user, we will use the post method. In the post request, we will send some data in the request body, and API will send data in response to that. The procedure for creating a post request. Create a request and save it in a collection. Select Post from the menu. Enter the website URL and the request URL. Select the Raw Radio button after clicking on Body tab. After typing the required code, click the Send button. After checking the response and the status code, we can say that we have successfully tested this API. Request parameterization. It is one of the essential features of PostMan. Rather than making the same requests with different data, we can use variables for parameters. Parameterization helps in avoiding the repetition of similar tests. Steps to be followed for creating parameterized GET request. Establish the HTTP request as getting. Give any URL as an input link. Substitute the first part of the URL with any parameter. Click Send and set the environment to use the parameter. Press Edit to establish the variable in the global environment to use in all collections. Establish the URL and save it. When you see the next screen, click Close. Creating PostMan tests. PostMan tests are developed using JavaScript, and they are included in tests to check results like failed or successful status and expected results comparison. Steps to be followed for creating PostMan tests. Step 1, first go to Get User Request. Step 2, move to the Test tab. Step 3, when you go to the Snippets section, click on Status Code. Code is 200. Step 4, when you click Send, the test result will be displayed. Step 5, after returning to the Test tab, we will add another test and compare the expected result with the actual result. Step 6, in PostMan, we can create different types of tests, depending upon the requirement to select the test. What is collection in PostMan? A collection in PostMan is a group of API requests that can be organized, shared, and executed together. A collection can be used to store API requests for a specific project or purpose, making it easier to manage and organize your API development work. You can create a new collection in PostMan and add API requests to it. Each API request in a collection can be named, documented, and grouped with others under a folder. You can also add variables to a collection, which can be used to store values that change between requests, such as API keys or URLs. Collections can be shared with others, allowing teams to work together on API development. Additionally, Collections can be exported and imported, making it easy to transfer API requests between different instances of Postman. What REST methods can be validated in Postman? In Postman, you can validate the response of an API request that uses the following REST methods. GET, you can validate the response of a GET request to retrieve data from the API. POST, you can validate the response of a POST request to create a new resource in the API. PUT, you can validate the response of a PUT request to update an existing resource in the API. Patch, you can validate the response of a patch request to partially update an existing resource in the API. Delete, you can validate the response of a delete request to delete a resource from the API. For each of these methods, you can validate the response status code, response headers, and response body to ensure that the API returns the expected results. You can also use tests in Postman to automate these validations, making it easy to build a suite of tests that can be run as part of your API development and testing process. How to pass request payload. In Postman, you can pass request payload, that is, data sent to the API and the request body, in several ways. Raw body, you can use the raw body type to specify the payload in raw text format. This is useful when the payload is a simple string or JSON object. Form data, you can use the form data body type to specify the payload as key value pairs. This is useful when the payload needs to be sent as application/xwww form URL encoded, for example, when submitting a form. Binary, you can use the binary body type to send binary data, such as images, audio, or video files. GraphQL, you can use the GraphQL body type to send GraphQL queries or mutations to a GraphQL API. JSON, you can use the JSON body type to send JSON data in the request body. To specify the request payload in Postman, select the appropriate body type and enter the data in the appropriate format. You can also use variables and environment variables in the payload, making it easy to parameterize your requests and automate your tests. How to pass authorization details in header. In Postman, you can pass authorization details in the header of an API request to authenticate the request. Here is how you can do it. Click on the Headers tab in the request editor. In the key field, enter the name of the header that the API requires for authentication. This is usually authorization. In the value field, enter the value for the authorization header. The format of the value depends on the API's authentication scheme. For example, if the API uses basic authentication, the value should be basic followed by the base64 encoded username password string. If the API uses bearer token authentication, the value should be bearer followed by the token. Click the Send button to execute the API request with the authorization header. It is important to note that the format and required fields for the authorization header may vary depending on the API. You should refer to the API documentation to determine the correct header format and value. In addition to adding the authorization header manually for each request, you can also use environment and global variables to manage your authorization details, making it easy to switch between different authentication schemes or tokens as needed. Postman vs SoapUI. Postman vs Swagger. Postman, SoapUI, and Swagger are all popular tools for API development, but each has its own strengths and weaknesses. Here a comparison between the three. Postman is a user-friendly, easy-to-use tool that is well suited for API prototyping, testing, and collaboration. It provides a clean interface, supports all common HTTP request methods, and makes it easy to manage API requests and responses. SoapUI is a more powerful and feature-rich tool for API development and testing. It supports a wider range of protocols, including SOAP and REST, and provides advanced testing capabilities, such as data-driven testing and load testing. SoapUI is a good choice for large-scale API development projects that require more advanced testing capabilities. Swagger is an open-source tool for API design and documentation. It provides an easy-to-use interface for designing and documenting APIs, and supports code generation and testing. Swagger is well suited for API design and documentation, but may not be as user-friendly as Postman when it comes to actual API testing. In conclusion, the choice between Postman, SoapUI, and Swagger depends on your specific API development needs. If you are looking for a user-friendly tool for API testing and collaboration, Postman may be the best choice. If you need more advanced testing capabilities, SoapUI may be a better option. If API design and documentation are your primary concerns, Swagger may be the best fit. When to use Postman. Postman is a tool that can be used in various stages of the API development lifecycle. Some common use cases for Postman are API design and prototyping. You can use Postman to test your API endpoints and check if they return the expected results. This can help you catch errors early in the development process and validate your API design. API documentation. You can use Postman to generate documentation for your APIs, including request examples and response samples. This can help developers understand how to use your APIs and reduce the risk of misunderstandings. API testing. You can use Postman to create and execute automated tests for your APIs. This can help you catch regressions early and ensure that your APIs continue to function as expected as your code evolves. API development and debugging. You can use Postman to send requests to your APIs while you are developing them, making it easier to diagnose and fix problems. API collaboration. You can use Postman to share collections with other team members, making it easier to collaborate on API development and testing. Overall, Postman is a versatile tool that can help you streamline your API development process, improve the quality of your APIs, and reduce the time it takes to bring them to market. Postman pros and cons. Here are some of the key benefits of using Postman. User-friendly interface. Postman provides a clean, intuitive, and easy-to-use interface that makes it simple to work with APIs. Automated testing. You can create automated tests in Postman and run them with a single click, making it easier to catch problems early in the development process. Collaboration. Postman allows teams to share collections, making it easier to collaborate on API development and testing. Documentation generation. Postman can automatically generate documentation for your APIs, making it easier to share information with others. Support for multiple platforms. Postman is available as a native app for Mac, Windows, and Linux, as well as a web app, making it accessible from any device. Supports multiple request types. Postman supports all common HTTP request methods, including GET, POST, PUT, DELETE, and others. Parameterization. You can use variables to parameterize your requests, making it easier to test APIs with different inputs. Debugging. Postman provides detailed request and response information, making it easier to debug issues with your APIs. Easy to integrate. You can easily integrate Postman into your existing API development workflow, making it easy to get started. Here are some of the potential limitations or drawbacks of using Postman. Limited security features. While Postman supports basic authentication methods, it may not provide enough security for sensitive information, such as API keys. Cost. The paid version of Postman can be expensive for small teams or individuals. Complexity. While Postman provides a user-friendly interface, it can still have a learning curve for new users, especially when it comes to creating automated tests or working with variables. Performance. The performance of Postman can be slow when working with large collections or executing many requests at once. Limited collaboration features. While Postman does allow teams to share collections, it does not have advanced collaboration features, such as version control or code review. Limited reporting capabilities. Postman provides limited reporting capabilities, making it difficult to track the status of automated tests over time. Compatibility issues. Postman may not be compatible with certain APIs, especially if they use custom authentication methods or require specific headers. Overall, while Postman is a powerful tool for API development, it is not without limitations. It is important to carefully consider your needs and requirements before deciding whether Postman is the right tool for you. Interview questions. 1. What is Postman? Postman is a collaboration platform for API development. It is a popular API client and it enables you to design, build, share, test, and document APIs. Using the Postman tool, we can send HTTP/S requests to a service, as well as get their responses. By doing this, we can make sure that the service is up and running. Being originally a Chrome browser plugin, Postman now extends its solution with the native version for both Mac and Windows. 2. Why Postman? Postman has become a tool of choice for over 8 million users. Free. It is free to download and use for teams of any size. Easy. Just download it and send your first request in minutes. API support. You can make any kind of API call REST, SOAP, or plain HTTP and easily inspect even the largest responses. Extensible. You can customize it for your needs with the PostMan API. Integration. You can easily integrate test suites into your preferred C or CD service with Newman command line collection runner. Community and support. It has a huge community forum. 3. What is an API? API is an acronym and it stands for Application Programming Interface. API is a set of routines, protocols, and tools for building software applications. APIs specify how one software program should interact with other software program. In simple words, API stands for Application Programming Interface. API acts as an interface between two software applications and allows the two software applications to communicate with each other. API is a collection of software functions which can be executed by another software program. 4. Name some tools used for API testing. Some of the tools used to do API testing are as follows: PostMan, Catalan Studio, SOAP UI, Tricentis Tosca, Apigee, JMeter. 5. What are the core components of an HTTP request? An HTTP request includes 5 key elements. HTTP methods. Set of request methods to perform desired action for a given resource: get, put, post, delete. Uniform Resource Identifier URI. Describes the resource. HTTP version. Request headers. Payload. It is basically a request body which includes message content. 6. State the core components of an HTTP response. Every HTTP response contains 4 key elements. Status or response code. These are response codes issued by a server to a clienti Euro TMS request. For example, 404 means page not found, and 200 means response is OK. HTTP version. Describes HTTP version, for example HTTP v1.1. Response header. Includes information for the HTTP response message. For example, content type, content length, date, status and server type. Response body. It contains the data that was requested by a client to server. 7. What API information is exposed in web developer tools? Request headers, response body, response cookies. 8. What can we use to get API information from web developer tools into PostMan? Copy as curl can get API information from web developer tools into PostMan. 9. In which type of encoding does PostMan accept authorization credentials? PostMan accepts base64 encoding only. This is provided inbuilt in PostMan, or else you can also refer third-party websites to convert the credentials in base64. 10. Why does PostMan accept base64 encoding only? We use base64 particularly because it transmits the data into the textual form and sends it in easier forms such as HTML form data. Also, we can rely on the same 64 characters in any encoding language that we use. Thank you for watching this video. We provide hands-on training with labs, homework, group projects. Prepare you for the certification. Provide real projects. Internship opportunities. Support you and resume LinkedIn. Staffing support. Provide tech references. In-person online class. Class retake options and more. Call us at 847-350-9034 for your free career consultation meeting. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the latest videos.